Welcome to Transform Gov, where we share real-life stories on how technology and data are changing the way public services are designed, delivered and experienced. As always, we talk to the people making transformation happen, the implementers and the leaders. Transform Gov is part of the Ireland e-Government Awards, and it's brought to you in partnership with Accenture. I'm Maeve Neefsey. Today, we're speaking about AI in local government, or should I say GenAI in local government, and that's beyond the hype. I'm joined by Kizzer Ahmed Bayambani and Richie Shakespeare from Dublin City Council's GenAI Lab, who also were the recent winners of the Ireland e-Government Award for the AI category. So I'm really pleased to introduce Richie and Kizmer.
Thanks to be on.
So look, just in terms of, you've won the AI category, the judges were really impressed with what you're doing. But for those who don't know, what is the AI Lab?
Well, I suppose the GenAI Lab was mainly set up just in order to see how AI could be useful to Dublin City Council, but to kind of find that out in a very kind of safe way, not to just kind of jump the gun and go head first into stuff, but to really kind of test stuff out in a nice controlled environment before we kind of do it at scale.
Okay. So I think it's a sandbox environment. Isn't that what you're working within?
Yeah.
So for, again, those who may not know what that means, how have you set it up and how does that work?
So if I just cut it short, I would say the lab itself is a collaboration between Dublin City Council and Adapt Research Ireland Centre at Trinity College Dublin.
Okay.
So it brings in the public sector expertise from Dublin City Council and the research expertise together in that sandbox environment, as Richie said. And we're trying to experiment these use cases for enhancing the services that staff offer within the City Council, basically.
Okay, so on the one side, you've got the kind of business case for what the problems that need solving, right? Mm-hmm. And then you brought in Adapt as your, I suppose,
like a research partner.
Capability and research, right?
Yeah, just to kind of have a good, strong academic background within the sort of the field of artificial intelligence, just to make sure that we have that extra bit of, I suppose, just extra bit of expertise that wouldn't naturally be gotten maybe from, a public, like a local authority.
Yeah. Adding to that, I think just about Adapt, because Adapt is one of the leading Irish research centres around artificial intelligence and human-computer interaction, and they do a lot of work around this area. So bringing them as a subject matter expertise in that and working with them, partnering with them is kind of an opportunity as well in the lab.
And they're doing a lot of work in this space, aren't they? Because we've had Robert Ross on from Adapt. We've also had... who else did we have on? We had Vinnie Wade as well. So we've had the stuff, like they're doing this all of the time. Yeah. So I presume that allows you to accelerate a bit, does it?
Yeah. Just even in terms of like simple stuff where it's like we might have a particular use case and we let them know and they're like, oh, well, there's actually this specific model that was developed. Yeah. Here's what it is. So we can sometimes get past the sort of trying to figure out what's the best fit for the use case in question, and they can just kind of guide us to that answer quite quickly, like far quicker than we could do on ourselves. Like,
yeah. In other words, you're not reinventing the wheel.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You've got somebody else who's probably been there before and can kind of speed it up a bit.
Yeah. And with having that research in-house is also like we have those statistical measures as well with us. We have those deduced methodology that we can apply, which is already researched upon, which is already looked upon, experimented upon, and then we can use that as a part of the lab rather than just going like plainly. So that's why.
And the two of you, what's your own background before this all started happening? Because again, it's interesting for other people who might be thinking about doing some sort of GenAI lab. What do you think you brought to the table that made you be selected really for these roles?
Well, I have a very non-technical background. So I actually have a degree in philosophy. So I suppose in terms of what that might bring to the table as regards artificial intelligence would be, I suppose mainly just in the fact that a lot of arts degrees, it's a lot of reading, a lot of writing. And given the fact that we do a lot of work with large language models, sort of having a good understanding and a good use of language can just be quite helpful, even in just writing the system instructions. Like you can be very clear in your instructions, very concise. You can make sure that any sort of relevant context that the model needs to know is there. And aside from that, I suppose philosophy does lead you to, it does train you how to think, and it often does train you how to think differently. So in terms of coming up with maybe non-standard solutions to problems that maybe people with a very specialized expertise might be locked into thinking about problem solving in a certain way, I think maybe philosophy gives you maybe you can kind of approach it from a broader perspective.
And also you're able to pull back, because I mean, part of philosophy is being able to pull back quite far and try and look at things on a bigger context, your canvas, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Just kind of being able to take a step back, look at the forest instead of the trees, kind of an approach. Yeah.
Very interesting. And yourself?
So I have done I have a background of artificial intelligence because I did my master's in AI here in Dublin, and then I worked with City Council as well as a data analyst. So that kind of brought me into this role of working as a researcher with ADAPT and Trinity College Dublin on the GenAI lab, and that's why it's really interesting to work with this team and with City Council as well. You can actually see how they operate, and because they are working with the public itself, so they know much more about the subject matter expertise, and then having that emerging technology clubbed in with that and bringing your expertise on the table is also exciting in the lab, I think.
And one of the things we talked about was, how do you decide what to focus in on? Because, you can apply, you could be playing with GenAI in millions of places, couldn't you? Yeah. So, but that's not the purpose. You've got some goals that you're trying to achieve. So how do you even prioritize?
So I would frame it like this. So the lab itself has 4 pillars within it. The first pillar is around the governance of AI itself, which has like a dedicated governance group within City Council, and which has participation from different sections of the City Council as well. Then there's a second pillar of that is more around education and training, where we try to bring in upskilled staff around AI and what GenAI itself is, because not everything is artificial intelligence. It is broad in itself. And then the third pillar is more around developing these proof of concepts, which come from the knowledge that we've shared with the staff, gathering their ideas, their challenges, and then developing these proof of concepts. And then evaluating. And finally, the fourth pillar is around how we can scale this up and look for a procurement-ready solution out there, and what's out in the market, and whom we can partner with, and we can build something in-house within the council.
And so I'm really interested in 2 aspects of that. One is that bringing people up to speed, because otherwise I'm guessing you're going to have everybody coming that they thinks AI might be able to solve their problems, whereas you want to try and help the people within the organisation understand where AI fits, what it is. Is that correct? Is that what you're trying to do by training people, or what are your objectives?
It would be one of the objectives, but I suppose the main one would be just it's an emerging technology, but it'll be quite well embedded, I'd say, within a few years' time. So just to make sure that staff keep up to speed.
Yeah.
Just even for just their own sake.
For their own day-to-day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that, and then also it's still quite an unknown about what artificial intelligence is, just for like the sort of the layman or the general person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we also just want to upskill them, because it's you fear what you don't know, and what you fear you dislike. So it's really about kind of bridging that gap of the fear of the unknown, just so people actually realize, okay, this is what AI is, this is what generative artificial intelligence is, this is what a large language module is, just at a kind of a basic level, just so they're not completely kind of unaware about what's going on and a bit kind of unsure and stuff like that.
Yes,
so
yes. Well, look, I'm going to take a very quick break now, because we've got to thank important people, which is our partner Accenture, who'll be back in about 2 seconds.
Through the power of cloud, data and AI, Accenture is helping the public sector by blending human ingenuity, technology and a delivery-focused culture to turn their ambitions into action. Be ready for any challenge by adopting a continuous reinvention mindset to deliver human-centric services that adapt and grow with your needs. Contact the team at Accenture to find out more.
So I'm back here with Richie and Kazir from Dublin City Council, and we were just talking about the fact that part of what they've been doing is to educate across the organisation about GenAI. And I'm just wondering how you approach that, because, I mean, it's a big organisation.
Yeah, it's 6,000 staff.
6,000 staff, yeah.
Actually, the initial education predated the GenAI Lab. Yeah. So it was an initiative set up by Kizzer and one of our colleagues, Claudia, from Smart Docklands.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think
it's called, we did start it back way before even the lab existed. We tried to upskill the staff using the Explain AI workshop. So we started this in partnership with Smart. It's a part of Smart Docklands umbrella, which is one of the smart districts within Smart Dublin. And it is run under the Academy of Near Future, training local authority staff around emerging technologies. So AI is one of the emerging technologies. So we created this very basic learning module, I would say, but to bridge the gap of what AI is and what generative artificial intelligence is. Because AI is not just about generative AI. There is traditional and discriminative AI as well, which is already being used and which predates since the 90s, I would say, since the 70s even, when even Alan Turing started his first experiment.
If you're using an LG washing machine in the 1990s, you're probably one of the first people to use a domestic application of artificial intelligence.
It's
if only we knew.
Yeah.
So that's how we started giving them, like, we trying to bridge that gap of what traditional artificial intelligence is and what generative AI is. Because as we already said before, this technology is moving at a very fast pace, I would say. And with the models that are released today, they're highly powerful. And it's really good, to be honest. But harnessing that safely is also our responsibility. And that's how we started kind of upskilling staff with the basic training program.
And how many people were involved in the training program?
So it was, as Richie said, it was me and my colleague Claudia Bailey. She's the lead of local authority engagement programs from Smart Docklands, from Trinity College Dublin Connect Research Centre. And we kind of partnered that, but we trained nearly around 350 plus local authority staff. I would say local authority because we did workshops with Dublin City Council internally. Now it's an internal online tool which staff can see on their city desk, which is an internal platform within Dublin City Council. But we also did with other local authorities as well, like South Dublin and then Fingal. So it's a good initiative.
Yes. What kind of, sorry, go on, Richie.
No, I think the total amount of just local authority staff we've now trained is like upwards of 500.
Okay.
So like it's for a sort of an initiative set up by just two people, I think it was.
That's a huge amount of reach that you got, and fantastic for the organisation to have that know-how.
Yeah, and we did notice that after sort of educating staff on it, the actual staff sentiment towards AI would actually shift far more from negative to positive. So it really kind of did show the point that, like, once people understand what it is, they kind of fear it less. They have less sort of negative connotations that they associate with it and stuff.
So, I mean, everybody feels, if they don't have knowledge, everybody in human nature, we fill it with whatever the vacuum is, we fill it with something.
Yeah.
Better to know and understand what's going on, right? And then you can make your own mind up.
Yeah.
And in terms of feedback from those sessions, did you have any kind of people coming back with ideas for you as a result of this, or what was the outcome?
Oh yes, definitely. So the whole session was not just teaching session, I would say. It had like breakout activities as well. So we did like a breakout activity just to show what the current regulations around AI is. And there was another one kind of gathering ideas from them, like within their current role or within their current area or section, where do they think they can implement generative AI. So they did came back with very interesting ideas, I would say. And that's how we can understand that, okay, we're actually educating the staff around what traditional AI is and how it can be applied and how we can use large language models or generative AI within that context. So we got a good positive feedback.
And were you able to move any of those ideas and suggestions relevant to what the lab is now working on, or are they?
So I would add on that. So we did like a brainstorming session right exactly 1 year before this month during February. And it was something which came post of these workshops that we did. It was an ideation session. So we educated the staff. We gathered the ideas from 14 different sections. Once we got the ideas, we made them think where they think the pain point is, where the challenge is, and how they can use GenAI within that domain. And then we took those ideas back. We tried to filter them strategically, and we started working on them as proof of concepts.
Okay. So in other words, there's a big business problem. You did a kind of a session to identify them.
And one of the main reasons we did that is that we didn't want to kind of fall into the trap of sitting at our desk kind of theorizing what different sections of departments might like as an AI solution or as a proof of concept. We really wanted to hear from them first, because they know their job better than anyone else. They know the pain points better than anyone else, and they know the business processes that could be improved by AI better than anyone else, particularly after they've done a kind of preliminary sort of education, sort of training session in AI about what it is. So we really wanted to kind of take a sort of ground up approach rather than, spending 6 months developing a solution. We just kind of arrive at their desk, we made this for you. And they're like, that isn't useful for us.
That's the kiss of death, isn't it? If you do it in, again, a vacuum, right? You're not actually getting the user whose problem you're trying to solve involved, or you didn't understand what they think the problem really is. Like
the staff itself, they are the subject matter expertise. As Richie said, they know the know-how process. They know from the starting of the process till the end of the process. They know how to, and our ultimate goal of the lab is that we want to offer services to our citizens of Dublin. So we want to make the work life for staff easier as well. in order to use these tools. So once they are the ones who are using them, so they need to be involved. So they are the prime, I would say, people who are involved in this.
And I suppose everybody thinks their job is the important thing that's happening, right, in an organisation, and that their problems are the ones that should be solved. But how did you decide what was the best for Dublin City Council as a whole from all of the potential projects that you could focus on?
We predominantly deferred to far more senior staff than us. So one of the key functions of the AI governance group that was set up was for them to kind of have the overall say, or at least have a very, very big say in terms of what use cases or proof of concept should be prioritised, just in terms of, they've a lot more time in Dublin City Council than me and Kizzer have combined.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're operating at a far higher level where you kind of do need to think about more long-term vision and strategy. So we feel that, if they prioritise it, it would far more align with the direction that the council wants to go, just sort of generally.
Yes.
Far better than we'd be able to.
Yeah. And in terms of, before we get into some of the projects which I'm dying to talk about, but, if somebody is looking at doing a GenAI lab, you have a way of working, right? So that I can hear how you garner feedback, how you prioritised, but how does it actually physically work? Because we talked about your initiating a pilot in a safe environment and then you take the next step. So what's the framework like? You have some sort of sandbox you're working within. How do you then move it out of the sandbox, or have you got there yet?
We haven't got there yet, yeah.
Okay.
It's just because a lot of the use cases we've been doing, they're taking longer than you'd kind of think, but that's mainly because there's a huge amount of preparation that has to be done with the data. And that's not the fault of Dublin City Council or anything like that. That's kind of it's kind of the state of play for a lot of organisations now, because there are times when you very much need to kind of tailor your data for AI, which it's only been around for a few years. So, of course, companies didn't have that in mind when they sort of created the data or when they came up with data governance policies and stuff. So, yeah, we haven't reached the stage of scaling yet, but it is something that is always in the back of our mind with any use case we start, where we kind of always just kind of think, if we do it in this way, could that be scaled at a bigger level?
Yeah.
Could it not? What might the problems be if we tried to scale it at this? So
yeah. So
it
build it once, but know that it could potentially scale, and therefore you have to let that informs how you start.
Yeah, more like an experimentation, as Richie said. And we started. It is a sandbox itself. So we try to implement in a closed environment within DCC's remits, and we try to use some of the use cases that we have, or the ideas that we developed as use cases, is that they are all for internal purposes. So we're just testing them or trialing them internally with the staff and see how it goes, and what are the disadvantages and advantages of that, how it can be improved, and whether we need GenAI for that at the first place as well.
Yes. Because sometimes you think, actually, why am I complicating this? This could be solved in a totally different way.
Yeah,
it's necessary.
Or when you dig deep into the business processes and the workflows, and then the sort of the tasks that need to be done, a lot of the time you can realize that the pain points that come up, they aren't necessarily pain points there where GenAI is the best fit. It could be just a simple case of just sort of traditional automation or something like that, or even just kind of reconfiguring in terms of how data is stored and stuff. So GenAI is definitely not always the solution. Yeah.
Okay, so now talk to us about what you're doing now. What are the use cases that you're working on that are, or you're excited about and are coming to fruition?
Yeah. So before going deeper into the use case, I would just put a point back there is about the use case itself, that we are looking for use cases that are focused more on where there is more information that can be harnessed with the help of large language models, because these LLMs, they are trained on huge amounts of data already. And we want to give, as Richie said, we want to give them data which is AI ready as well. So we try to work on those use cases which are low risk use cases, and which are quick wins, and which can bring a big operational and organizational change as well. And from there, we have kind of started trialing out the use cases. So we did work with one of the use cases that we are working currently with is building control. It's kind of how we can enhance their validation process, and how we can enhance just the simple administrative tasks which they do in their daily workload.
You said billing, is that right?
Building control.
Building control.
Yeah,
sorry,
building
my fault.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So tell me what's happening with that particular project.
So we have just about started using GenAI on it, because sort of the initial work that we did was just trying to map out the business processes in as minute detail as possible. And so Chris, who's the other member of the GenAI lab. He joined recently. He's been the one that's been sort of leading the charge on that. It's a lot about we were trying to map out the business process as minutely as possible, identify the specific pain points. And by mapping out the process, we also meant like what types of data are involved within each of these. Is it like a user input? Is it a file upload? Is it just plain text? So we wanted to figure that out, and then the data, and then we'd kind of get to work with GenAI kind of based solutions.
Okay, so you kind of got to figure out what the problem is and where you can apply in the first place.
Yeah.
And then you're also working with counsellors, is that right? Is that another project?
Not so much counsellors, but we're working with counsellor questions and the answers that are given by the council within council meetings, to be super specific.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, I still don't know what that means, so explain that to me.
So once a month, there's sort of monthly council meetings. That'd be attended by councillors, and it would be attended by sort of members of Dublin City, the sort of Dublin City Council, the administrative side. And as part of those meetings, alongside, say, motions and financial reports or other reports, there are what's called sort of questions lodged. So they'd be questions lodged by councillors to Dublin City Council. And the question would be in the minutes, so would the answer. So it's actually that very specific part of council meeting minutes that we are using for this specific use case. And if I was to describe the use case in one sentence, it would be sort of an AI model that predominantly uses what's called retrieval augmented generation. I like to describe that as just Control F on steroids.
Yes.
Or more simply, you can say like it's like an information retrieval system.
Okay.
Basic. So we have an LLM sitting on top of those council questions or the part of the minutes that we have, and then it's extracting information which is required from those minutes only, nothing outside that. And that's what Richie said, retrieval augment generation. So we are augmenting that information to the limits of those minutes only, nothing outside that.
So if a question is being asked, you're able to go back then through all of the
historic
minutes, and then pull to the top all the relevant times and information that are related to this.
And so it can either be just, it's mainly just to enable sort of council staff to cross-reference just with previous questions. So say if a topic is included in a question lodged by council, we could say, has this been asked in the past before? If so, what have our answers been? Is our answer going to be the same as last time, or is it going to be a new answer? So say if it's like a building project, you'd sort of likely suppose that our new answer, if it's like a few months down the line, would be sort of different. But then some things might not be different. So in terms of like property ownership, stuff like that could be fairly static in a lot of instances. So it's just about very much double checking our answers with sort of the entire meeting minutes sort of data set.
And what kind of, on a day-to-day basis, what kind of problem were you having that you were trying to solve through this new approach?
Sort of, it was said to us that a lot of the time, well, not a lot of the time, some of the time, questions would answers to current questions would sometimes contradict previous answers to past questions of quite a similar nature or a similar topic or like even the same topic. So it was just about trying to ameliorate that specific kind of pain point.
And you can see also the speed that will bring.
And also like comparison of topics as well. Like if you want to look for a topic in those minutes, you don't have to read those PDF documents dated from I remember the data is dating back from 90s, I think. And you don't have to go back all the way in the years. So you can have a tool that can do a job for you. Just search the information. And it's a very safe use case. But talking about that use case, that's a use case which can be replicated in similar other areas as well, where we can build an information retrieval which is restricted to a particular information or a knowledge space, and we can extract information from that.
I suppose, look, I'm dying to see how that works, and maybe you'll be able to come back to us and show us how it's going when you've got some, real live data. It's actually out there, right?
Yeah.
But I suppose, do you have learned things along the way? And from my understanding of our conversation before we got ready when we were getting ready for the podcast, this is fairly new, isn't it? What you're doing in terms of a council taking on AI and doing, or GenAI rather, and having a lab. So if you were to think about the things you did that maybe you would do differently second time round, what would you say to people?
It's kind of what a lot of other companies or organizations would say that have been sort of really trying to explore the benefits of AI, is just that you need your data in order. Like it's almost become a cliche at this stage, saying it in the sort of the world of AI, that data needs to be, all your data doesn't need to be in a row.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
So-
you did say that takes longer than people expect,
oh,
right?
that's
Exactly.
a
I
lot
think,
of
yeah.
a lot of the time that could be 80% of the work.
Yeah.
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 As in AI is just the flourish at the end of
Mm.
a huge sort of overhaul or sort of reconfiguring of data.
Yeah.
I suppose process mapping is another thing. You know, when you're trying to solve a problem, you have to start from exactly where it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I presume that it may prompt process re-engineering as well as GenAI to deal with some of the problems along the way.
Yeah, it's basically about understanding what the challenge is, understanding what the process is from its beginning till the end, and then seeing where GenAI fits in. As Richie said, that data is the new oil, as they say, because when it comes to data, I remember one example that we did with one of the use cases. It was with learning and development. So there we do have data, but the data was kind of meant that was for people, basically,
Yeah.
for a person to read, but not for an AI or for an AI model to understand. So it needs to be AI ready. So that pre-processing of data, that's the key over here, I would say.
Okay. Is human language too vague for, or what's the problem?
Well, initially when sort of ChatGPT and stuff first launched,
Yes.
it did, but it is getting better and better over time.
Yeah.
But in terms of the level of certainty or level of consistency that we were looking for, it wasn't sufficient for that specific use case.
Yeah, I would point out that it is not completely vague, to be honest. but I would say that AI couldn't understand each and every human nuances of the conversation. It couldn't understand the emotion that's there in the conversation. To make it understand, you need to label that. So that's a challenge as well that we're trying to figure out within the lab as well. Like, you have chatbots out there, like ChatGPT and so many other chatbots are there, and you're interacting with that. But and they do interact you back as well, like a common human, but still they lack that human nuance and that human emotion in that as well. So that is something which we're trying to do and test out in the lab as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in terms of, you talked to me about earlier about a building control project, or did you mention that at the beginning?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what that one was all about. Is that another case that you're developing?
It is now. It's very much a work in progress and sort of early days. So we're currently have a look at 2 or 3 potential ways in which AI could help specific problems within sort of the business processes that we mapped out over the last few weeks. So it's very preliminary, but some of the results are quite good. Some of the things we're looking at are very, very basic things, which is using AI to help sort of scan documents that are submitted to building control and just have them renamed according to a sort of a naming convention that's kind of universally understandable.
Yeah.
So, as opposed to it being like a company's naming convention, makes perfect
Could
sense.
be different. Could
Yeah,
be different in one company. Could be different how you interpret it.
Where it'd make perfect sense to the person sending them, but to the people receiving them in build control, they just want to know exactly what the document is. So we sort of use AI to kind of read through it and then rename it accordingly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a very basic task as well in one sense, but it takes, when we were having the workshop with building control, it takes like ages to do that simple task as well. It takes sometimes 6 hours to understand what the document is, or all the collection of documents, and kind of renaming all of them. Sometimes there are like more than hundreds of documents. So rather than going through each one of them, opening them and understanding them, we can have an AI tool that can understand the document and rename them. Obviously, there is a human oversight to that. It won't go rogue on its own.
Yeah.
So there's a human in the loop to this piece as well to check whether it has renamed it. So that's something which we are trialing out at the moment. So I would say all of these are at the proof of concept stage, where we're trying to prove a concept. And then, as I said in the 4th pillar of the lab, is that we are looking for solutions out there. So we did like a recent RFI that Dublin City Council did as a part of the lab, is to see what's out there in the market around artificial intelligence, and it's a knowledge taking task, basically, to see what's information out there and to seek that information and how we can harness that and partner with some company. Yeah.
And so are you, at the very beginning, when you're looking at partnering, are you trying to look amongst your existing vendors, or are you looking beyond that for partnerships?
I'd say beyond in both.
Yeah.
There's a lot of procurement frameworks that have already been set up within Dublin City Council that we could leverage for certain instances. So particularly, like we have Microsoft as a vendor, as a provider.
Yeah.
So it'd be quite easy to kind of leverage them in certain instances, but we're also just trying to get a full understanding of the sort of solution provider landscape out there, because you never know what could be the right fit for you, and you'd never want to kind of rule them out or kind of sort of unknowingly hamstring yourself before you've even hit the races. Like,
Yeah. So, well, look, I know every single day there's a new company with a new approach to how they're going to do this. And that's totally revolutionary, and maybe it isn't. But do you like people to approach you and let you know what they're doing that they think might be useful in terms of technology companies or solutions out there?
There hasn't been a huge amount that have sort of explicitly approached us. I suppose the real sort of thing that got us noticed by maybe some providers was the actual publishing of the RFI. So now we've been approached by a few companies, just like a meeting or two, just they kind of wanted to have a chat with us, which is fine. But that's kind of been about it in that respect.
And is RFI still out there? Is it still live?
So it finished on the 15th of December.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's finished for now, but off the back of it, we're hoping now to go sort of out and actually procure a solution rather than just kind of do a bit of window shopping.
Okay.
You know?
And what are you looking for? What was the RFI for?
Well, the RFI was effectively it was very much just to get a very general kind of high level understanding of what kind of companies are out there, what sort of solutions they're providing. Now, we did kind of hint at some of the areas that we were interested in. So, of course, some of the areas we're interested in are based off the proof of concepts we've done. Some of them are not sort of directly from the proof of concept. So, for instance, like we are quite interested in seeing if there's any ways in which artificial intelligence can improve accessibility, either for staff or whether for, the people of Dublin or the people that visit Dublin and stuff. So, it was very general, but we did kind of give hints about what we're interested in.
And when you say accessibility, do you mean online or just generally?
General accessibility.
Generally, but then I'd say online would be a big one, just in terms of, you have the likes of, say, Notebook LLM, which can take entire documents and make a podcast out of it. Or stuff like that. So like for maybe some people with that might struggle to read things that are very fine print for like vision impairment or vision difficulties. It could be a huge help for them, even just in terms of them being able to do their job better. Sort of things that that some people might take for granted,
Yeah, exactly. And I know that one of the things about a lab, right, is that how do you get, when you have a successful proof of concept, moving it into the real world. Have you looked at that yet and how you're going to enable that to happen? Let's say you have a fantastic result.
Yeah, definitely. We would like to scale that up, like with the council questions that we did, like the assistant, I would call it an assistant because it's assisting the staff in interacting with the councillor questions and the meeting minutes. It would be good to have something similar to that live running in the council, but that completely requires a safe approach, and that's how we are going. It requires complete testing, so we are trying to test that with as many staff as we can so that we can deploy it internally and then kind of scale that up. So yeah, we are looking for options to scale up these use cases.
Well, look, I mean, it's a good future ahead of us, isn't it, really, in terms of what you're doing? It's interesting. It's very doable in a way because GenAI lends itself to that. So what are your ambitions and hopes for the GenAI lab going forward?
I say that we just make a meaningful, positive impact on the way in which the council does its work, and thereby sort of having a positive impact on the people that live in Dublin, that work in Dublin, that visit Dublin, that pass through Dublin. So that's kind of the goal, at least for me.
That's the goal for you. Okay.
Yeah. Similar, I would say what Richie said, it is ultimately for the citizens of Dublin. And because we are combining a public sector expertise and a research expertise together. So we're trying to go in a safe approach, and I think that's and I hope that it is going positive as well, and I hope that it goes positive in the future as well, and we have good examples to showcase and good stories coming out of the lab as well. That's
and hopefully inspire other local authorities to kind of learn from some of the mistakes that we made and stuff, and maybe implement it in as good a way as possible.
Proactive.
I hear that's definitely an offer of help, I think, is if somebody's in a local authority thinking of setting up a GenAI lab, you're the people to talk to, right?
No, they can do.
Yeah.
Well, look, it's been fascinating. I mean, look, I'd love you to come back when things are up and running and you've finished the project and maybe it's getting into the live environment, right? Or outside of just a pilot.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, and if you have new projects, please enter them in the awards when we start opening up later in the year.
Will do.
Thank you so much for sharing what you're doing, and I'm dying to hear more.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having us on.
Not at all. So look, before I go, I just have to thank the team here, which is Peter Rice, who's the studio manager, video editor Neil Horner, and Richie Ryan, sound engineer Lee Brennan. So thank you very much for joining us, and see you on the next episode of Transform Gov.